You know, I feel so lucky to live where I do for a lot of reasons, but one reason is I'm at the top of the mountain and I can look off to the east and see the Santa Clara Valley. But when I pull up my driveway, I can look off to the ocean. That's the ocean way out over those islands in the clouds. And every day that I come up here, it's a different visual, a different scene. Sometimes, like today, the clouds come flowing in, and I've done time lapses, and it's amazing to see how much movement there is out here during the time lapse. And off on the side here, the sea of clouds is just pouring into this valley. And if you stand here for long enough, the valley fills up and these little islands go away. Well, I started this video channel in 2007, and about 5 years ago I made a commitment on one of my videos that I was going to do 1,000 videos, and I'm getting pretty damn close. I'm up to 997 videos. That's a lot of work for a long time. I honestly don't know how much longer I'm going to keep this up. But for those folks out there that have been following me for all these years, I just want to thank you, and hopefully you've learned something from this channel. My channel has been primarily on trees and tree care, and once in a while I'll throw an exciting video in there, and actually it's those exciting videos that boost the subscriber rate up. But those of you that follow it for the educational value, that was my real purpose for this channel. So I try really hard to teach you something different and new consistently. I talk a lot about tree dissection and tree decisions and why do we prune a tree in the first place. So a lot of these videos are more about, you know, what happens to me, and I've always got my my iPhone, usually, sometimes the GoPro. I've got a camera with me all the time, and I say, aha, this might be a good topic. I hope you guys find this channel interesting, and like I said, thank you so much for your support, and I'm going on and on and on, so on with today's show. I think you'll like these. So one of the things I really try to talk about in my videos is, why do we prune trees in the first place? What are the reasons? What is the justification for getting up there and taking branches off? Well, in this particular case, we've got a large valley oak, medium large. It's not near as big as they get, but it was excessively heavy. The acorn production on this tree was unbelievable, and it was a very wide spreading tree. We're in a drought right now, so a lot of the wood in many trees, even wild trees out in the woods, the wood is very brittle and things are happening. So when we have a situation where there's an excessive amount of foliage and an abundance of heavy acorns, then we start having branches breaking. And that's what happened on this tree. There was 2 big branches that snapped. And when I went up there, I gave a little tug on the branches, and you could tell everything was ready to snap. And it's because of these acorns. A big part of it was these acorns. They're huge. They're really big. I see a lot of acorns, and the valley oaks typically have larger acorns, but for some reason, this is like a mast year for this tree, where it produces just an abundance of acorns. So consequently, I got up there and looked at it, and I could see a lot of areas where the tree had been trimmed in the past, and there were multiple branches coming off of these areas where it was trimmed back once before, and that equated to heavier production of the nut crop, the acorns. So I had to do a moderate trim all the way around, and weight reduction everywhere.
Good job.
And the tree, if I hadn't touched it, I know it would have self-destructed. So that's the justification. Here's what it looked like when I finished. I probably took off 25% of the foliage all the way around. Oh, we got a fun one today. How many times have I started off my videos by saying that? Oh, we've got another Ulmus parvifolia Chinese elm. I think I've said that a few times too. This is a big, wide tree, and these people absolutely love it. They love the canopy. An interesting story. They said that they've got a tree guy that's been working on this for the last 27 years, and I guess he hurt himself, so he can't do it now, so they need me to take a look at it. My first observation was, well, they've got a really beautiful green lawn, so they're watering this tree a lot. Well, that's a good thing, but it also creates a tree that is far, far too wide. But let's go take a look at what I found. So what I see is a tree that's been stripped out repeatedly. They keep cleaning it out and cleaning it out and cleaning it out, and it gets wider and wider and wider. And there hasn't been a whole lot of end weight. I can see lots of little cuts up and through here, but they're kind of stripping out cuts, and everything kind of grows out on the outside. So what we have is a tree that has gotten so leggy and so wide that it's starting to self-destruct. They had a big branch way up in the top break out. It's gone. There's a big area right here of foliage that's coming straight down that I'm guessing that must be cracked. It must be broken, or it's weeping like that one branch right there. It's just a tiny little sprig off of something that's been excessively pruned out. But what I see is a lot of potential problems. I see two branches that are rubbing right there that have grown on top of each other. And you can see there's actually a union between the two, so there's a lot of strain. I also see that this branch is bending, and way out on the end there's just a ton of weight, so much weight that's on there. But look at this side of the tree. The whole thing is just sagging way, way down. Let me zoom back out there so you can see what I'm talking about. And then I come around and I spotted this. I don't know how well you can see that in the video. Zoom in on it. This whole thing is cracked from here all the way up to here. So all this upper canopy weight, all this over here is pulling it this way, and everything that's down there is pulling it down. And when I walk around over on this side, I can see not only is the crack going all the way up on that side, but the bottom limb is cracked. Let's see if I can zoom in on that. Sorry, I'm using my iPhone camera. So that limb right there, that's got to come off. That'll reduce some weight. But when I do that, everything is going to be pulling it this way. So that might be counterbalancing it. So I got to take some weight off there. This is right on the verge of breaking. I told her this is going to go at any minute. It's been cracking and splitting. And interestingly, if you stand over here in one spot, I don't know if you can see that, but I can see clearly. I can see light right through that crack. So it's going all the way through. And the crack extends all the way down here and goes all the way up there. So I told her, I gave her a bid on the job to trim the whole tree, but I said, this is sort of a desperate situation. If they don't get enough weight off of it today, this is going to be on the ground any minute, or tonight, or whatever, because this is something that happened. So I'm not knocking another tree service, and I don't know anything about them, who they were, but this is a situation where this problem was exacerbated because this tree was continuously lion-tailed and stripped out on the inside, and all the weight kept getting wider and wider and wider. And the fact that the lawn is so green is pulling up a lot of moisture. Everything else is dry. It's a drought condition, but they water a lot. So there's a lot of extra weight up there from the water that we wouldn't normally see. So it's sort of a damned if you do and damned if you don't. And I had to be really careful to tell her that, you know, she's not going to have this big wide canopy because there's going to be a big hole over there. There's going to be a big hole over here. And this one that goes up over here, maybe I can take a little bit here and a little bit there. Boy, I don't have time to clean it up. I said, we got to make a mess. They said their gardeners are coming out. I said, well, the gardeners can clean it up. I guess, I don't know. But anyway, let me go ahead and do that, and I'll show you what it looks like when I get it all done. So I got out my GoPro. The GoPro camera is a little bit unusual. That it's a wide-angle lens, and it makes things distorted. It makes this tree seem wider than it is. But interestingly, with the GoPro, it doesn't seem as thick as it does from the outside. You can see a lot more sky through the tree than if I was using the other camera. So it kind of stretches things out, but it kind of reveals just how stripped out this tree actually is. So I'm going to walk around a little bit and show you what I'm finding, and I'm also going to take the GoPro up in the tree with me. There's those cracks. I'm getting on my my little bucket truck. Let me tell you a little bit about this bucket truck. I bought it brand new in 1997, and I don't believe they're even making these buckets anymore. It was made in Brazil. I love this little bucket. It's got a pony motor. It's an independent unit. This is actually the third truck that I've had this on. I had it on a smaller pickup at first, then I had it on a F450, which was a little bit too much, and then I downsized it to an F, or it's not an F, but it's a Dodge 3500. So it's got dualies, but it's a low-profile truck. And what I really like about this rig over the larger bucket that we have is that I can get up underneath trees, and I can actually, drive it safely on lawns without causing any damage. So I can get into really tight areas, and I find it a very, very valuable tool. My electric saw is also something that I'm really loving. It's not quite as powerful as a gas saw, but I find that the instant on-off and the quietness and the lack of exhaust fumes makes it really really enjoyable. You do have to keep it real sharp, and as soon as it gets a little bit dull, then it doesn't operate as good as it should. But I'm just loving it. So for a trim saw, I don't use it for removals or even bigger limbs. The biggest limb I'll take is maybe 8 or 10 inches at the most. But my job here is to, as quickly as I can, get a bunch of weight off of this splitting limb. And I chose to do it in lots and lots of little steps because I didn't want there to be a big jolt on the limb, when I made a cut that may have caused it to twist or move and exacerbate the split. I didn't really know what was going to happen. So I came at it from the outside, and I just started picking and picking and picking. Get a real bird's eye view of what my job is like sometimes. I'm pretty fast with this saw. I don't want to get into, should I be doing one-handed? Should I be doing that? I'm not going to get into the safety stuff about tree work. There's too many safety Nazis out there that are going to condemn me, and I hear it all the time. But I believe I am very safe with this. I want you to note the way that I put a lot of these pieces of wood down. It's very, very heavy. I'm surprised at the density of this wood, how much water weight there is. So if I just let them flip-flop over without giving them kind of a flat drop, they're going to punch holes in the lawn everywhere. So it's kind of a habitual thing that I've learned how to do. Sometimes I see guys just cut and cut and cut and cut, and then when you clean up the lawn, it's like there's divots everywhere. And this is a fairly wet lawn right now, so it's too wet for me to park my bucket truck on the lawn, so I'm reaching it from the driveway side. There we go, nice and flat. Keep them coming flat. That goes for working over the asphalt as well. If you're way up high and you make pieces of wood that come straight down on the end, they can punch holes in the asphalt. A lot of times we'll pile up a bunch of wood, and that's where we'll target, try and drop all the pieces on top of the wood pile so it minimizes any damage to the asphalt. There you get a view from way up high. I'm just trying to leave something here so it's not a completely one-sided tree. My goal is to go in there and I'm going to put a through rod in that split, but I have to make it reasonably safe right now. So I'm taking end weight off of this side, and I ended up putting the bucket out on the street, and I did work on that side as well. I do love this little bucket. It's fast, it's efficient, it's low maintenance. Well, that's what it looks like with the emergency weight reduction. I did a lot of weight over there. I moved everything off the lawn. I stacked it up over there nice and neat. The rest of the tree won't be as severe as this. I will do balanced end weight all the way around. And that doesn't mean chopping, chop, chop, chop. That means taking one here, one here, one here, lightening it up, and cleaning up some of the ones that are sticking out. Quite a bit over the roof. There's a situation where, you know, you're sort of damned if you do and damned if you don't, and I didn't want to lose all those branches on that side. Even though they're split, I'll put it in a big through rod up there and hold it together. And you know, I left a few branches up there that are kind of stubs you'll get some growth that'll come out. Left a few little funny bits here and there. But if they would have lost that limb, it would have looked like half a tree. Now, not all of my work is down in I like to call it the lowlands, in the city, in the Saratoga, Los Gatos, San Jose, Cupertino, Sunnyvale, etc., Los Altos. I do get up in the mountains sometimes where I live. Now, I started off this video showing you a little bit of the view from where I live, but I get over to the Boulder Creek, Felton, Ben Lomond area sometimes, and in that area they have a lot of enormous redwood trees. And what's interesting is the area was logged extensively back in the 1800s and early 1900s, and most of these trees that you see out here are the resprouts, the second growth, and they have gotten extremely tall. I mean, some of these trees are easily 200 feet tall. So the reason I'm showing you this footage here is to talk a little bit about how people are dealing with living in the forest. I mean, I live in the forest, and I have a certain level of acceptance. If a fire comes through, I recognize and realize that there's only so much clearance one person can do. I know the embers will come down from everywhere. Everything will get ignited. And I know the fire department really wants to have what they call defensible space. But if you've got trees that are a crown fire going from top to top to top, a property like this is really hard to defend. How can you deal with it? Hopefully it's wet enough out here and there's enough fog to keep things more at a minimum. Look at that beautiful dogwood. I really like this. Now I'm sure this is kind of a damp area much of the year, and these people must really enjoy living out here. It's beautiful. It was so peaceful. It was so quiet. So, I really enjoyed just going up and taking a look at this property. But getting back to the redwoods, when you drive around the area, you can find old stumps, you know, sometimes 4, 5, 6 feet in diameter from way back when that are still standing. And a lot of these trees that have resprouted come up from those old stumps, so there oftentimes would be a circle of trees. Now, one of the big issues that I have is when developments go in and the bulldozers put in the roads, the foundations go in, the utilities go in, everything that changes the environment that these trees have grown used to. So I was going to take you on a little bit of a drive up in this area. This is the road up through Highway 9 that takes you in through, I'm coming back now, I'm coming through Felton, and you can see that there's lots and lots of redwood trees out here, just gorgeous. Now, the CZU fire that we had just a year ago came very, very close to this town. In some cases, it's just a quarter mile away. There's Henry Cowell Redwood State Park. Heading into, let's see, this is Boulder Creek, I believe. Oh, this is still Felton. There's an interesting little place. It's been there forever. This guy does sculptures and a lot of odd things. And this thing used to be standing up. I don't know why it's in this position now. Maybe it became weak. But it's sort of a landmark that I've seen since I was a boy. I remember this guy a long time ago. Now here's a big tree that I noticed out in front of the hardware store in Ben Lomond. And it's a beautiful old oak tree. It's a black oak, but if you look up there, you can see where this tree has been cut back severely. It's hard to tell, but there are big, big hollows up there. And further down, there's a place called Brookdale Lodge. This is a cool place. This room inside here, it's not open now. It's been closed now for about the last 10 years, but the creek actually runs right through the middle of this big dining area. I'm not sure how old this place is, but I know it's got a lot of history. They're trying to get it finished back or put back together, and they've opened it up, and there's some lodging in there, and there's another little restaurant. But this part is still closed, and I'm really sad because I used to love going there. There's actually some history about ghosts and things that happen in here. You can see the creek goes right through it. And I remember one time I went there, and the creek was rushing so vigorously that you could barely hear yourself talk inside the restaurant. It was so loud. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this little trip up into the Santa Cruz Mountain community, kind of close to where I live.